Welcome to my room. Today I'm going to teach you how to restake a Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma. Alright, this is my Rhaphidophora Tetrasperma, or as many people know it as a mini monstera. It's been growing in my room for just under a year, but if you have one, you know that they are incredibly prolific growers. For a while I had it growing up my wall and it just got really heavy. Some of the branches have kind of folded over and it's just kind of wild. So today I'm gonna show you guys how to restake something like this, as the aerial roots on it do fasten themselves to the pole. It's a little tricky and it took me a little while to have a plan for what to do with it, but I think I know how to handle it. So besides having the option of putting it on a brand new pole, you could also propagate a couple of the branches, which is something that I have done with a couple of them that got particularly too long. You could also let it dry out quite a lot and let the branches get kind of soft and kind of train it back down the pole. But as you might be able to tell, the actual plant is a little bit sparse. It's dropped a couple leaves when I first introduced it to this space. So I think that it will really benefit the overall look of the plant to kind of clip things off and pop them back down into the soil and fill in some of those empty areas. So I'm going to take you over to my potting bench and show you what kind of tools I'm using today. Isn't that just the most beautiful pot you've ever seen?
I think.
I'm
not sure. What is it?
I'm not gonna promo another plant shop.
Oh, so you didn't get that from?
I did get it. I have my new poles that I'm going to use. They're handy because they kind of stack, so as the plant gets taller you can just put a replacement in. Potting mix, a new plastic planter that's just a little bit bigger than the one it's in now. Some water to water it in. Some Velcro to tie the branches to the pole. Clippers, just in case I need those. Propagated branches that I was propagating separately. Some bark and little cocoa chips, which I'll explain in a little bit what the purpose of those are. So I'm just gonna kind of squeeze the pot because I think it feels relatively like there's a lot of roots in there. So I'm gonna give it a little bit of pressure just to get it kind of loose. And I just watered it so it shouldn't be too dusty, maybe just a little dense. Watch this explode all over the floor. Sometimes with plants like this that have the roots, like the aerial roots that like to grab onto things, it's like they just are latched to the pot, which is great, but it's hard to get it out. I bet it's the pole that's really in the world. Can you see what that is? Is it the pole that's like... now I'm just really loosening the roots. A lot of people have kind of different approaches to this, because sometimes people say that it likes a little bit of the soil that it's been growing in. But to me it just feels like when you clean the roots off as much as you can, they just are getting the freshest start in the newest soil, especially if there was anything kind of going on pest-wise or what have you. It just feels a bit more thorough. Look at those roots though. Alright. I'm gonna go get rid of the soil and I'll be right back. So next step is to actually peel these branches off of this pole. So you can see that its little roots fix themselves to whatever they can find, really. Because naturally, if you were to see this in its natural habitat, it would be fixed to maybe trees or rocks or something like that, which is really neat to watch, but I'm a little nervous to take them off, but I think it should be fine. It's not like they're getting any nutrition or anything through the wooden pole that it's on, so I'm just gonna kind of gingerly peel those off. I also have some things that I used to fix it to the pole. As you can see, it's some miniature felt flags, which is one of my favorite things in the world and very, very cute, but I'm afraid it's stressing the plant out a little bit just with the way that it's tied. Like this bottom one is a little too tight. So I think it'll be a lot happier with the Velcro situation in a minute. So I'm just gonna kind of cut these off. Oops. Use that for something else. I'm just gonna kind of pick a branch and kind of follow it down the pole and kind of detach it wherever it might be tangled or attached. Since it is pretty freshly watered, there is kind of the risk of the branches not being really flexible. They're almost like a little, maybe like a stick of asparagus or something where they could just snap, so that's making me a little nervous. When you're potting something, you want to think about where your plant is native to and what soil it might be used to growing in. For instance, this plant in particular is native to Thailand and kind of the drier areas. And so with plants that are used to those environments, I like to add some bark and things that kind of break up the soil a little bit. Not necessarily something that retains moisture, but something that helps it drain a little bit better. These mini monsteras in particular like to dry out a little bit, and rather than adding gravel or rocks or perlite or something like that, something natural like coconut pieces or bark still retain a little bit of moisture but have a little bit more aeration to them. Not sponsored, unfortunately.
Sponsor.
Non-spawn. And now I'm gonna add all of our little branches. Okay. I'm gonna just kind of dig each individual hole, just as if I were potting an individual plant. This one is just very top heavy. gonna try to work with it. It's gonna look a little funny at first. So this one is picture perfect. It kind of looks like spaghetti squash, I think. Perfect roots. This one did not take as well and is really squishy. I've already trimmed off a number of pieces like this, so I don't know if I'm gonna include this one in the pot. I might give it another go and try to keep propagating it and then just pop it in later. But yeah, sometimes they don't always take. I propagated it in water and sometimes it's just a little too much, so that is okay. And a lot of times people will ask how long you have to wait for something to propagate and then transfer it to soil. And usually I just wait until there's a really good root system that's formed. Like this one has some roots that are like 4 or 5 inches long, it's been sitting there for a couple months, I would say. Sometimes it just takes weeks. And you might notice a little stress. It might maybe drop a couple leaves or something like that as it adjusts to its new medium, but there's still a lot of room for success. It's really satisfying to grow roots on something and then it gets to be a part of, it used to be a part of this. It was the very top of it that was touching my ceiling. So hopefully it takes and is happy back with its little fam. I'm gonna add some more soil to the top. And for some people are a little nervous about just generally potting things. And my greatest tip that I could give you, besides not being afraid, is don't pack the soil down really hard, but also don't just throw it in there. You want it to be nice and tight around the roots, but still giving them some wiggle room, I would say. And a lot of times that can be achieved just by watering it in at the end, which is really important. That kind of helps settle any of the soil. But it's not scary. It might be scary to you, but it doesn't have to be. Alright, so we've got everything planted, and now it's just time to situate the new moss pole. So I have 3 sections on this one. I think that's going to be plenty tall. The only downfall of these is that it's kind of a short stake, but once the plant is really well established, it holds itself in and anchors it down. So it might just be a little wiggly at first. So I'm going to go ahead and press it down. Alright, I've got it right in the center. I guess if you wanted to, you could kind of make a back to it, or if it was always going to be kind of against a wall or something. But I think generally it's good to kind of have it going around in a circle right in the center. So I'm going to take this fancy Velcro tape. I think a lot of times it's called tomato ties or something. I've been introduced to this Velcro and I'm never going back. Usually one piece is kind of going from one of their little logos to the next. It's the worst when you have too small of a piece. Whatever ties you choose to use, they're basically just a guide to train the branches up the pole. And they do certainly offer some stability, but eventually the roots will grow into this material, so it'll anchor itself in. This is the very heaviest branch, and I really don't want to too small of a piece of Velcro.
Need some help with that. No.
Funny how I said it's easier to move when it's in a separate pot, and then I choose to move it still within the pot. So it's all settled in and in the spot that I think it will stay. I think it looks a lot cleaner, just a little bit more fresh, and I think it'll be a lot happier this way. And I'm excited to kind of watch it fill in. So thank you guys for watching. I hope that you learned a little bit. I know that I was a little unsure of exactly what I was doing, but we will keep an eye on it and see how it goes. Maybe give you guys some updates. So thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.